Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goët.
Speaking of threat, at one point you mentioned in a debate that there are no-go zones in the Netherlands and that cars and politicians are being set on fire in the Netherlands.
I didn't say that. That is actually an incorrect statement. Yeah, we would call it fake news.
Is that
I
fake
never
news?
said that.
Because it's what you literally said.
No, it's not what I said.
The Islamic movement has now gotten to a point where they have put Europe into chaos. Chaos in the Netherlands. There are cars being burned. There are politicians that are being burned. And yes, there are no-go zones in the Netherlands.
You call it fake news. Obviously,
I didn't call that fake news. I didn't use the word this today.
no?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Okay, I think...
It is Friday, December 22nd of 2017, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and we have been working quite hard in the kitchen, curating another hour of, well, a fantastic cornucopia of abundance. Pete Hoekstra. Oh, man. I think that guy is fake news. We all know the Pete Hoekstra types, don't we? And he fits in well with this current administration. Lies about the lie. About the lie. I used to think that a Pete Hoekstra, in fact, I used to think Pete Hoekstra specifically was a dimwit. But I actually have to assess that a bit differently, because I also know that to be, even a halfway good liar, you have to be pretty intelligent to keep track of your lies. And Pete Hoekstra has been in the public sphere for quite a while. And, well, even when caught in his lies, just, triple, quadruple down. So maybe he's a lot more intelligent than I gave him credit for. Oh, my God. Well, what's on the menu today? I should fill you in on that, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the world other than what we're preparing for you today. Well, on the menu, we will analyze how Trump denies climate change until it threatens one of his properties. Well, of course. White House aides insist Trump's hires were perfect. Even the Nazi sympathizer, the racist, and the felon who lied to the FBI they hired. And Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy just gave liberals a huge ray of hope for Christmas. And Hanukkah, too. After the break, of course, we move to the chef's table, and today we're going to have a little investigation of the EPA's decision to allow the spraying of a bee-killing pesticide on 165 million acres of farmland. Well, I don't know. We will fracture rock, several miles underground to capture microscopic bubbles of gas. Microscopic. And it's trapped in hard rock. Well, I know shale is not that hard, but try digging in it with your bare hands. Come on. Not for miles. So they want to get the little microscopic bubbles of gas, but they're intent on killing every last bee so that, we don't have any more food. I wonder what they have in mind. Oh, and we'll finish up with a little story with deep pockets and deep cover. The United Arab Emirates is paying ex-CIA officers to build a spy empire in the Gulf. But how far can former U.S. spies go? All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Well, it is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, and I should remind folks that on your menu, if you go to netrootsradio.com, that'll take you to our homepage. Scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, you'll find the chat room link. That is one way to communicate with the station. And Roaring Girl takes care of that mostly. To the leftish of the chat room link are the donate and contribute buttons. That is how we are able to pay our bills. We cannot do that without you, and thank you for that. You can contact me, Justice Putnam, at Justice Putnam on Twitter, and also I am Justice Putnam on Daily Kos, so get a hold of me in either one of those places. Another reminder, I am working on getting podcasts of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy available, and it's probably going to be after the first of the year. I apologize. There'll be a little backlog for you to catch up with, but I've been having requests, and I'll be on it right away. So I apologize for the delay, and thank you for your patience. This first item on today's menu that we have offered up for you today in the front cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is by Mark Hand from Think Progress. The executives who run Donald Trump's golf course empire fear the impacts of climate change could turn a golf course owned by Donald Trump on the west coast of Ireland into one huge water hazard. As a remedy, the company made plans to build a wall to protect the property known as the Trump International Golf Links and Hotel from rising sea levels and erosion. Trump's company filed an application with the Clare County Council in Ireland to build a seawall, but opposition to the project forced the company to withdraw the application in December of 2016. I should interject. He hasn't been very, very popular with, the citizenry in both Ireland, Scotland, and elsewhere. Isn't that interesting? Trump, who has repeatedly rejected the science behind climate change, immediately took a mulligan, filing a slightly scaled-back application to build a wall. He just wants to build a wall. The Journal newspaper reported that the plan still involves beach-destroying seawalls nonetheless. The county council voted Thursday to approve construction of the wall. That was yesterday, by the way. The Clare County Council approved the construction of the two new protection structures. That's what the Trump Organization is calling them, erected at the dunes in the area closest to Trump's golf course. The construction will also include the excavation of existing sand and the use of sheet piling backstops over 280 yards along the coastline. Building a barrier in the middle of the beach is going to change the whole way the dune system works. Yeah, this should have been about trying to get the golf course to evolve the changing dune system and not destroying what is a natural process. I always liked the idea that, originally in golf, the sand traps were, they moved over the course of seasons. Made the game so much more interesting, don't you think? Well, They gotta golf on carpets now. Jesus. During the permitting process, Trump's company threatened closure of the golf club if his application for a wall was rejected. Oh, okay, so local officials worried about lost jobs if Trump shut down the resort. Well, I don't know. Maybe they could do something else, like correcting beach erosion. Trump's company picked a consultant. If Trump threatened to close down his business if we didn't kowtow to his whims, I don't know. I'd say, okay, see ya. I would probably, through eminent domain, then confiscate that property, turn it into, a public golf course, and hire everybody that was there to, like I said, take care of beach erosion. I like the idea of sand dunes as sand traps, and they move. Oh, boy. Jeez. I like that. Okay. Trump's company picked a consultant to conduct an environmental analysis of the proposed wall. After doing the analysis, the consultant prepared an environmental impact statement that concluded beach erosion along the ocean side of the golf links and hotel would likely accelerate as sea levels rise more quickly. The environmental impact statement also cited an Irish study that says erosion will continue at a steady rate through 2050. If the predictions of an increase in sea level rise as a result of global warming prove correct, their study said. However, it is likely that there will be a corresponding increase in coastal erosion rates, according to the environmental impact report prepared by the Trump consultant. Oh my God. Admitting to climate change. Do the oil companies know about this? I thought they had a cease and desist order whenever any of this was brought up. Jeez. The mere acknowledgement of climate change in the consultant's filings on the impacts of building a wall at the Irish resort contradicts everything Trump has said on and done on the issue. Over the past 11 months, Trump's administration has legally abandoned efforts to fight climate change. In June, Kellyanne Conway, counselor to Trump, refused to say 3 times. She denied it 3 times. This is so Christmassy. Or maybe that was Easter. Whether Trump still believes global warming is a hoax. Her statement came one day after Trump announced plans to withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement. He's all about making money now. Who cares what happens in the future? Just like a psychopath would. Or, I don't know, an irresponsible person then. Excuse me. During a visit to Brussels last spring, Trump reportedly expressed little knowledge about the country. Come on, everybody knows about the Dutch boy and putting his thumb in the dike. Come on. He says he doesn't know anything about it because he probably comes from there and if they did the 23andMe thing on him, yeah, you're Netherlands. You're not German. Liar. Your grandfather was a liar. Fake news. Okay, aside from the damage to dunes caused by a protective seawall, golf courses themselves are harmful to the environment. Oh no, don't tell the Area 21 aficionados. We must save every golf course there ever will be. Angel golf courses! Golf courses are historically known for their overuse of herbicides and pesticides. And yeah, no kidding. And apparently, we have to be told a practice that can have disastrous effects on fish and other aquatic life. We don't, but, I got to tell you, the town I live in, they don't care. Let's just, use high-pressure hoses and scour the riverbank for flecks of gold. If you let them, they would do that. They used to. The average golf course uses more than 300,000 gallons of water a day. Yeah, but then it evaporates and, it helps out everything. Golf course maintenance also commonly involves deforestation and clearing native species of vegetation. I still like the idea of a moving sand trap. Having a golf course is integrated with the ecology and the landscape, truly, as God intended. In other news, before we continue on, bring you a little deli dish here. So, in other news, it looks like, of course, Trump's longtime assistant is testifying in the Russia investigation, and that's sending ominous shivers up the spine of everybody in the White House. I wonder if they told Don. He gets really upset when he hears about that stuff. Of course, Jill Stein is being caught up in the investigation. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. It's really weird. Callista Gingrich is now the envoy to the Pope. Callista Gingrich. I remember there was a time, my mom was a divorcee, and she couldn't take communion. And now they're letting Callista. Jeez, times have changed. Or, I don't know, maybe the Vatican Bank's coffers have been depleted since they had to kick out all the mobsters. And then I guess all those mobsters had to take all their money to Cyprus so that Wilbur could take care of it and take a fee off the top. Oh, which reminds me, Wilbur is being called to testify and be investigated for ethics, fraud, etc., violations. Yeah. Well, I wonder if Don knows. All right. Well, you know what we should do is get back into the rest of the menu here, and we'll just leave this deli tray out. And when new items come out from the kitchen, we'll fill you in. Okay. Next dish to come out of the kitchen is by Oliver Willis from Share Blue Media. In 2017. The Trump White House was pressured into firing a Nazi sympathizer, a white supremacist, and a man who pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI, who also just happened to take foreign payments despite being warned not to, and was widely seen as a national security risk. Despite these multiple black eyes, Trump officials said that they do not believe that Trump made any mistakes in his hiring decisions. The comments came during a background briefing with reporters that was used to tout the achievements of Trump's first year in office. When asked if Trump made any mistakes with the people he hired to work in the White House, one of Trump's senior aides, who spoke anonymously, of course, replied, No, the president didn't make any mistakes. Why would you think that? Well, that remark reveals just how deluded Trump and his inner circle are about the disastrous year they've had thus far. And despite Trump's basement-dwelling approval ratings, they remain in a self-created bubble where they can do no wrong. The highest-profile bad hire of the Trump regime has to be former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who lasted just 24 days in his position. That is the shortest tenure in that position in the entire history of the United States. He's got a lot of firsts, and as, my Trump bro tells me at family gatherings, he's the right president for the right time. And all these hires, they're good. Even Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn was railroaded, by the way, just so you know. I would also say that he lasted 24 days in his position, but 18 of those days was after the Trump administration was apprised of the problem with Flynn. Okay, the Trump administration was warned about Flynn's compromised position by acting Attorney General Sally Yates. Instead of acting immediately, Trump fired Yates instead and only got rid of Flynn when he was forced to do so, as any mob boss would do. Trump also hired Sebastian Gorka. Despite his painfully thin resume on a supposed topic of expertise, national security, and his sympathies towards Nazis. Well, he's the perfect guy for that group. Gorka was reportedly a member of Land. Well, not reportedly, he is. A group founded by an anti-Semitic Hungarian leader who collaborated with the Nazis during World War II. Well, not all Nazi sympathizers. Yeah, not all Nazi sympathizers, and especially collaborators. Yeah, I put them on the list that says bad. You've been naughty. That was not seen as disqualifying for a White House job, though, at least not in this White House. Trump brought Gorka on as a counterterrorism advisor, elevating him from his previous role and as an anti-Islamic Fox News pundit. And now he's on Sinclair Broadcasting. And so is Boris Epstein. Get into all those little local markets, and all of the FBI's investigations are, well, fake news, a vendetta, a coup. A coup. Okay. Well, he lasted more than half a year, but was then forced out after reports surfaced, questioning what his actual job was beyond appearing on cable news to launch bigoted tirades. Well, that was his job. Trump brought in former campaign chairman Steve Bannon. Well, we all know about Bannon. Bannon wants to run for president. And I say, yeah, let's let him do it. Come on. Bannon running for president? Jeez. There's some question, like, could he set up his campaign headquarters in the meth house that he owns and lived in Florida? They have those there. There are other questionable Trump hires who have not resigned or been forced out of their positions yet. There was the decision to hire his son-in-law Jared Kushner, his daughter Ivanka, serial racist Jeff Sessions as Attorney General, cabinet secretaries like Steve Mnuchin and Ryan Zinke, who fly around in luxury at taxpayers' expense, or like Ben Carson, who seems utterly confused by his position. Well, I guess, being a brain surgeon doesn't necessarily mean that you're prepared for other aspects of life, apparently. Trump's poor handling of government hiring has also shown up in the slate of unqualified and unprepared nominees he has chosen for federal judgeships, with some forced to withdraw after public humiliation. Perhaps that senior aide was telling the truth when he or she said Trump didn't make a mistake with those he has hired. He has actually made many, 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 many mistakes. Not just a mistake. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, he's just part of the crew who are deconstructing the administrative state, and incompetence means that you're competent for that job. All right, last dish here in the front cafe at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is, a little ray of hope for the holiday season. Remember when, like, hope got turned into a bad word, like liberal and, I don't know, loving your neighbor? Remember when those got turned into really bad things? And they still are. I mean, it's part of the American carnage. People helping their neighbor is absolutely the kind of American carnage that Trump and his crew want to stop. This little ray of hope that we have here for the Christmas season is, I think it's needed. Even though it's very oblique and it's just, shall we say, speculation. But as I mentioned before, we replaced the sign that says we refuse to give service to certain types of people. We replaced that sign with one that says we reserve the right to use speculation, hyperbole, and anything else that we can do that can be turned into a shtick, so it makes your whole experience here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy entertaining and, enlightening too. Okay, enough of that. What is this great ray of hope? Well, Ian Millhiser from Think Progress fills us in. There are persistent rumors, often spared by or often spread by extraordinarily well-connected lawyers and political operatives, that Justice Anthony Kennedy is pondering retirement. The justice himself has at times fueled the rumors. Kennedy, an 81-year-old conservative, is the closest thing the Supreme Court has to a swing vote. Should Donald Trump pick Kennedy's replacement, the law would almost certainly lurch right on a wide range of subjects, from abortion to racial justice, marriage equality, gerrymandering, and I don't know, just giving everything away to Putin. There's a law that allows it. Okay? And you get Trump's judges on there, they're going to find it. Well, that's my speculation. Indeed. Which is also known as in this reporter's opinion. Yet, as Above the Law's David Latt reports, Kennedy has hired a full complement of 4 law clerks for the court's 2018-2019 term. Well, active associate justices are allowed to hire 4 clerks, while retired justices hire just 1. Kennedy hired a single law clerk last summer. The fact that this clerk now has 3 compatriots suggests that Kennedy has not made the decision to retire for at least another term. Wow. I wonder if the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Anthony Kennedy were speaking with each other. Interesting. It should be noted that Kennedy can make the decision to leave the court at any time, so the fact that he is now staffing up for another Supreme Court term does not guarantee that he will remain, but the fact that Kennedy now has a full complement of clerks lined up for another year should offer hope to anyone who does not want Trump to have any more control over who sits on the Supreme Court of the United States. And another way to prevent Trump from appointing odious, onerous, and incompetent members to the judiciary, I think, is to make sure he's not in office. And the way we like to do it is with votes. So let's do it. Come on. All right, it's time for our break now, so we will move everything back to the chef's table and take up the rest of the hour there. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is an important message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. When it snows this winter, make sure you clear more than your driveway. Before you hit the road and before you get in the driver's seat, check to be sure that your vehicle's tailpipe is clear of snow. If the tailpipe is blocked, carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless, and deadly gas produced by your engine can build up quickly inside your vehicle, poisoning anyone inside. To learn more, call 1-800-CDC-INFO. That's 1-800-232-4636.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Gaines. Even if you are a safe, experienced driver, accidents can happen at any time. Young children are especially at risk for injury and death in a motor vehicle crash. Dr. Erin Sauber-Schatz is a researcher with CDC's National Center for Injury Prevention and Control. She's joining us today to discuss the importance of keeping children properly restrained in motor vehicles. Welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you.
Erin, how many children are killed or injured each year in a motor vehicle crash in the U.S.?
In 2013, 638 children aged 12 and under died in a crash, and over 127,000 were injured.
How effective have child safety seats and other safety devices been in preventing injuries and death among children?
Car seats and booster seats are very effective at preventing injury and death in a crash, but the most effective seat is the one that parents use to buckle their kids on every drive.
Where's the safest place for children to ride in a car?
The back seat is the safest place for children to ride in a car, buckled in an age and size-appropriate car seat, booster seat, or seatbelt.
How long should a child ride in a safety seat?
Children should use a car seat until they're at least 5 years old, and a booster seat until the adult seatbelt fits properly. The adult seatbelt fits properly when the lap belt lays across the upper thighs, not the stomach, and the shoulder belt lays across the shoulder, not the neck.
Erin, where should parents go in their community to get help installing and using car seats?
Parents can get one-on-one help free of charge from a certified child passenger safety technician. You can find a tech near you at cert.safekids.org and click on Find a Tech. Another option is to check with your local police or fire department.
Erin, where can listeners get more information about restraining children properly in motor vehicles?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov and type in the search box, Child Passenger Safety.
Thanks, Erin. I've been talking today with CDC's Dr. Erin Sauber-Schatz about the importance of keeping kids safe in a motor vehicle. Remember, for children under the age of 13, properly restrain them in the back seat. If you're unsure about how to install or use car seats, check with your local police or fire department. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Robert Gaines for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Christopher Intagliata.
They're among the most amazing events of the wild world. Africa's thundering herds of wildebeest.
And nothing will stop them now.
The incredible migrating monarch butterflies.
One of the great spectacles of nature.
The captivating chorus of the Gulf Corvina. Wait, haven't heard of that last one?
It's a true wildlife spectacle. The fish this loud, this many fish calling.
Brad Erisman is a fisheries ecologist at the University of Texas at Austin. And to hear him tell it, the chatter of the Corvina fish belongs right up there with those other great spectacles. Every spring, he says, the fish migrate hundreds of miles to the northernmost reaches of the Sea of Cortez. That's the body of water between Baja California and mainland Mexico. And there, at the Colorado River Delta,
it has this massive synchronous spawning with outgoing tides for about 2 to 3 days, every other week for about 3 months.
And during that time, it also makes this noise, produced by flexing muscles around its swim bladder.
And allows the swim bladder to reverberate, much like any sort of drum.
That simultaneous drumming of hundreds of thousands or even millions of fish is extremely loud.
It's louder than if you were, a meter from the stage at a rock concert.
In fact, Erisman and his colleague Timothy Rowell have found that Corvina chatter rivals the decibel levels produced by whales, loud enough even to damage the hearing of dolphins, making it among the loudest underwater animal sounds on the planet. The aquatic cacophony is written up in the journal Biology Letters, but the sound is under attack by our teeth.
Fried, baked, put it in tacos, or pretty much any way you can think of, you can make Corvina.
Which spells danger for the singing fish.
It's heavily exploited, it's overfished, and we're really concerned about the fishery collapsing.
But by spreading the word about the Corvina's signature sound, Erisman hopes to keep the species and its song from going silent.
Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Christopher Intagliata.
For most of us, food is not just fodder to get us through the day. It touches us emotionally, culturally, personally. We see this special connection when we gather family and friends for holiday meals. But it's often in the worst of times that our deep relationship to food reveals itself most powerfully. In August, for example, after Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston and the Texas Gulf Coast, the sure signs of people's resilience came not only from the sound of power tools, but also from the aromas of barbecue wafting across a neighborhood, or a big pot of shrimp gumbo simmering on a butane burner set up on a street corner and dished out free to anyone who needed or wanted some. As New York Times reporter Kim Severson wrote about flooded-out Houstonians, no matter what, cooks are going to cook. After the hurricane, 134,000 homes in the 10-county area around the Bayou City were destroyed or swamped with muck and polluted water. The emotional and cultural impact, Severson wrote, is most keenly felt at mealtimes. The kitchen is the heartbeat of a home and, by extension, of a community. So, despite the obstacles, Houstonians cooked, improvising with ice chests, hot plates, and crock pots to create kitchens and second-floor bedrooms, outdoor decks, or any dry spots they could find. She wrote about 70-year-old Al Marcus. 4 feet of bayou water destroyed his kitchen, yet only days later he had fired up his backyard smoker and cooked 140 pounds of brisket to provide sustenance and a serving of normalcy to the families and volunteers who were stripping waterlogged sheetrock from storm-damaged homes. "What else am I going to do?" Al asked. This is Jim Hightower saying, that's the true nature of food. It's not just another consumer commodity. Food is us, socially as well as biologically.
What do the corporate powers from Wall Street to Walmart have in common? They hate the Hightower Lowdown. You can see why at www.hightowerlowdown.org.
Welcome to 60 Second Civics, the daily podcast of the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. The Constitution clearly gave the U.S. Supreme Court the power to overrule state laws that violate the Constitution or the laws made by Congress. The power is based on the Supremacy Clause in Article 6, Section 2. This makes the Constitution and all laws and treaties approved by Congress in exercising its enumerated powers the supreme law of the land. It also says that judges in state courts must follow the Constitution or federal laws and treaties if there is a conflict with state laws. The national government is supreme in those areas where the Constitution gives it the power to act. For example, suppose a state passes a law allowing factories to pollute the air. Then Congress passes a law controlling the pollution a factory can produce. The national government's laws would have to be obeyed over state laws. That's all for today's podcast. The show's theme song is Complacent by Cheryl B. Engelhardt. You can find Cheryl online at cbemusic.com. 60 Second Civics, where civic education only takes a minute.
From United Nations headquarters in New York, this is your World in 2 Minutes. I'm your host, Luke Vargas, for Talk Media News. An American pressure campaign to convince countries not to vote against it at the UN General Assembly was in high gear on Thursday morning. The UN is poised to vote on whether to condemn President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. The U.S. and Israel have long been in the minority within the UN General Assembly, but the Trump administration is applying unusual pressure on other countries and even threatening to pull funding for the UN if members of the world body continue to defy the United States. U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley.
Unlike in some UN member countries, the United States government is answerable to its people. As such, we have an obligation to acknowledge when our political and financial capital is being poorly spent. We have an obligation to demand more for our investment. And if our investment fails, we have an obligation to spend our resources in more productive ways.
At the end of the day, Haley said the Trump administration won't change its mind over whether to move its embassy to Jerusalem, and that the worst other countries can do is shoot themselves in the foot by crossing President Trump.
America will put our embassy in Jerusalem. No vote in the United Nations will make any difference on that. But this vote will make a difference on how Americans look at the UN and on how we look at countries who disrespect us in the UN.
Turkey's foreign minister, meanwhile, encouraged other countries not to cave in to U.S. pressure.
This is bullying, and this chamber will not vote to do that.
It is unethical to think that the votes and dignity of member states are for sale. Let me put it in this way. We will not be intimidated. You can be strong, but this doesn't make you right.
For more global news headlines, visit talkmedianews.com.
All right. Well, thank you for accompanying us back to the chef's table here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I'm your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and we've curated and prepared a bit more for your enjoyment today. So we start off with a little palate cleanser, and that is the weather from around the world. And starting off along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 29 degrees. We'll have a fairly chilly day today. I don't think we're going to break 40, though we are forecast to do that. Small chance of rain. Winds will be light and variable. Currently, they're out of the east-northeast, and about 3 miles per hour. Doesn't look like they're going to pick up much later on. We're supposed to have a low of 31, but I think we're going to go down below 29 again tonight. And tomorrow we expect to have a little bit of the same weather, though on Sunday, Christmas Eve day, it looks like we may have rain turning to snow, and then dry on Christmas Day. All right, well, we'll look how that happens. Currently, the air quality index is only moderate at 65 parts per million, so if you have breathing problems, I'd suggest staying in. A lot of people are burning wood to keep warm. Pressure is at 30.3 inches. Visibility is at only 9 miles, and the humidity is 83%. And yes, indeed, we do have a white crust of frost everywhere this morning. Okay, weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they have purchased, and these people live around the world. In, London is experiencing 53 degrees and overcast. Paris is 48 and overcast. Rome is 58 and clear. Kiev is 33 degrees and mostly cloudy. Kabul is 54 with haze. Hong Kong, 68 and clear. Tokyo is 42 and clear. Sydney, Australia is 67 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California, 43 degrees and partly cloudy. And New York is 39 degrees Fahrenheit and overcast. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased, and these people live around the world. Okay, first course here at the chef's table is brought to you by Grace Guarneri out of Newsweek. The Environmental Protection Agency is set to allow the spraying of a bee-killing pesticide, thiamethoxam, on more than 165 million acres of farmland. Switzerland-based agrochemical company Syngenta submitted a proposal to the federal agency last Friday to increase the use of the pesticides across the country, according to the nonprofit Center for Biological Diversity. Oh my gosh, scientists. The enemy of the economy. If the EPA allows farmers to spray the pesticide on wheat, barley, corn, rice, sorghum, and potato crops, it could exacerbate the already drastic decline in the bee population that has taken place over the last decade. In 2015 and 2016 alone, beekeepers reported that they lost about 44% of their colonies. Now, of course, in the preceding decade, it would be, like 60% of the colony for that year was decimated, and then the next year there was like another 40% of that, and then 80% the next year of that. So we're slicing the pie of bees pretty thin here, folks. Now, the proposal comes on the heels of a University of San Diego, California study published on Wednesday that found neonicotinoids and pesticides from intensive agriculture are 50% more harmful to bees than scientists previously thought. In January, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service added the common rusty patch bumblebee to its list of endangered species. Pollinators like bees are crucial to global agriculture and are responsible for making 1 out of every 3 bites of food we take. Okay. Now, this particular pesticide is a type of neonicotinoid which paralyzes and kills bees and other pollinating insects by first attacking their central nervous system. The pesticide often is used to coat the seed of crops, but the proposal would allow farms to spray it directly onto plants. And nothing drifts in the wind, Nothing. It all just stays where you put it. Okay, if the EPA grants Syngenta's wish, it will spur catastrophic declines of aquatic invertebrates and pollinator populations that are already in serious trouble, said Lori Ann Bird, director of the Center for Biological Diversity's Environmental Health Program. The pesticide approval process is broken when the EPA announces it will consider expanding the use of this dangerous pesticide on the same day its own scientists reveal that the chemical kills birds and aquatic invertebrates. I don't know. If the birds and the aquatic invertebrates are in the way, you got to get them out of the way. Why? Every businessman knows that. Jeez. The pesticide that kills bees also poses health risks for people. Yeah, but who cares about them? These findings should cause us to rethink our current pesticide risk assessment procedures, which, based upon our findings, may underestimate the toxic effects of pesticides on bees, UC San Diego researcher Dr. Simone Tosi said. And that study was published in the peer-reviewed biology journal Proceedings of the Royal Society B. And that's B with just a capital letter B. Though it should be for the bees. I would. Now, if you didn't know, bees pollinate crops crucial to our diets that account for about 90% of the world's food. One study found that more than 700 North American bee populations could face extinction, and if the bees went extinct, it would be hard for the world to maintain a population of 7 billion. I know that there's some white supremacists who think, yeah, who cares? They're mostly brown and black people anyway. Get rid of them. And there's some people that might say, yeah, the world is overpopulated, and I guess we need to have a shakeout, don't we? That sounds rather inhuman and inhumane, doesn't it? Well, it does to me. So, it just begs the question. What the hell is going on? All right, last course here at the chef's table is by Jenna McLaughlin from Foreign Policy magazine. How far can former U.S. spies go when building a spy empire? All right, not far from the northeastern Zayed port of Abu Dhabi, in a typical modern Gulf villa framed on one side by an elegant swimming pool, Westerners are teaching Emiratis the tool of modern spycraft. The day starts with the basics. A 10 a.m. seminar on Sunday morning is titled, What is Intelligence? On Thursday, the recruits learn how to operate in 4 to 6 man surveillance teams. Over the course of the first week, they embark on scavenger hunts intended to hone their problem-solving skills. The following weeks get more advanced. Students are schooled on creating cover identities to use when attending galas with diplomats. They are taught how to groom intelligence assets. And they watch skits about recruiting Libyan sources. The Emirati recruits also train at another site at about 30 minutes outside downtown Abu Dhabi called the Academy, complete with gun ranges, barracks, and driving courses, reminiscent of the CIA's farm at Camp Peary, a training facility located in southeastern Virginia. The details of the training are contained in an official course schedule reviewed by Foreign Policy and were described by former U.S. intelligence officials who have been involved in the effort. The facilities and courses are part of the United Arab Emirates' nascent efforts to create a professional intelligence cadre modeled after the West. Now, we do know, of course, our own intelligence services were created by who? Well, yes, I know. There were Americans involved, but we relied heavily upon captured Nazis to turn, our divergent intelligence services into the OSS, and then that became the CIA. What could go wrong? Former CIA and government officials were drawn to the Gulf nation by the promise of interesting work and perhaps even more importantly, lucrative careers. Because working for government, you don't usually get rich unless you're corrupt. Okay? What's happening now in the Trump administration, I assure you, is really an anomaly. Yes, I know there have been elected officials in the legislative branch who are rich beyond really their means. We know that. So it's been building, I agree. The key figure behind this growing intelligence training operation, according to multiple sources, is, Larry Sanchez, a former intelligence officer who helped kickstart a controversial partnership between the CIA and the New York Police Department that tried to preempt the radicalization of potential terrorists by tracking people, many of them Muslims, in mosques, bookstores, and other places around New York. Sanchez, a veteran of the CIA clandestine services, has been working for the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates for the past 6 years to build large pieces of its intelligence services from the ground up. 6 sources with knowledge of the matter tell Foreign Policy magazine. I'm not obviously a big fan of Sanchez. He's quite a rogue. And we should be aware of that, shouldn't we? Oh, my God. Okay, well, and this is why. Sanchez is one of many former Western security professionals who has made his way to the Gulf nation to provide security training. Eric Prince, the founder of Blackwater, famously moved to the UAE to create a battalion of foreign troops serving the Crown Prince, details of which were first revealed by the New York Times in 2011. Of course, there was a warrant for his arrest at the time, too. And so he said, I'll give up my citizenship in America because I love it so much, and move to the UAE, where I can make a lot of money because that's the only passport I need. The UAE's reliance on foreigners to build its security institutions is not new, but the Gulf state has usually tried to keep the details of that help out of the public view. And when it comes to training its nascent intelligence operation, details have been kept particularly quiet. However, the use of former U.S. intelligence employees to build up for the foreign nation spying capabilities is still treading into new territory. 6 former 6 former intelligence officials and contractors described the training operation to Foreign Policy magazine, but they requested anonymity to discuss sensitive intelligence operations to shield friends and associates still working in the country and to protect their future employability. Yeah, I would. I'd be anonymous too. All right. While former employees had a range of views on whether the training was effective, legal, and in the U.S. interest, they all agree that having private contractors create a foreign intelligence service was likely unprecedented. Well, we're mercenaries now, aren't we? I mean, everything is for sale. I think, why not? Just sell it. Sell it. Okay, more about Larry Sanchez's collusion with the New York Police Department and their spying operations. Now, of course, we know that the New York Police Department just didn't spy on Muslims. You know, anybody that they considered to be a critic was then, they could be terrorists, and if they're not, we'll find out after we check them out. So this is a very comprehensive article, and I would suggest to go to the link provided on my diary that I put up on Daily Codes with all the show notes for every show. And this brings us to the end of today's broadcast period and also for the week. And I hope that everybody has a happy holiday, and we will see you. Well, I'll come here and do a show on Monday. How do you like that? Okay, Christmas Day I'll put a show together, and you can I don't know, have it on while you're opening presents, maybe, or maybe you've already opened presents. All right, stay listening to Netroots Radio for the rest of the day. Of course, we have fantastic content throughout the day and also throughout the weekend, and we will see you on Monday here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théères, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.